Hi, everyone. I'm Nikki Closser, and this week on the Portrait System podcast, we have Scott Robert Lim. Scott has been a well-established photographer, speaker, and educator for over 20 years, and we had such a cool chat. Scott is a repeat speaker at our WPPI conference, and he's actually been a full-time educator for a while now. But it's interesting, though, because he still does portrait shoots and weddings just for learning purposes so that he can continue to create and to teach others how he does it. There are a lot of photographers out there who are interested in becoming an educator, and Scott shares so much valuable information about not only what it takes, but also how you can make your way to the stage. So if you're someone who's ever considered teaching or speaking about photography, this is the episode for you. All right, I'm going to introduce now Scott Robert Lim. Hi, Scott. Welcome to the Portrait System. How are you?
Hi, glad to be here.
Hey, we got to see each other in person a couple weeks ago.
I know. I can't remember the last time we kind of hugged and said hi and
It's been a while.
talked a bit. Yeah, it's been a minute. But
Yeah.
so glad to see you.
Yeah, that was at the Portrait Masters Conference. Scott, you were one of our amazing speakers on the main stage, and it was awesome. You always bring such great energy.
I actually, that was my first time at the Portrait Masters, and I absolutely loved it.
Good.
And, it was a little bit daunting coming up after Sue, but I just had to stay in my lane and be who I am and just kind of go from there. But I think it worked out fine.
It was awesome. Super great.
I had an awesome time too.
Yeah. It's funny because I think the first time I heard of you was at WPPI, my very first WPPI, and that was in 2012. So you've been speaking for much longer than that too, though, haven't you?
Yeah. It took me a little while to even get onto the WPPI platform and all that kind of stuff. So I had to kind of pay my dues and, work a few years before that. How come they're not asking me? I'm better than these other instructors. Please ask me, going through all that stuff. But I started actually teaching in 2003 on
so 20 years
blog. Yeah. And so at the time I wanted to really get into teaching, but of course nobody's asking me. So I go, you know what? I'm going to just start online. And I was one of the first people to start teaching in 2003 on a blog, Zanga. And so that's kind of like how I started. And then before I know it, I had, this is way back in 2003, right? I had like 1,000 people a day, looking in and from all over the world. And in 2003, that's like, oh my gosh.
Oh, for sure.
All these people from China and everywhere or Europe are coming in and commenting. I was just like, wow. I was just overwhelmed. I was and felt so honored that people would want to, read my blog.
I mean, you were like one of the pioneers then of photography education. I mean, one of the,
I think so. In the modern era, of course, like when the internet started, I was
the online, I guess I should say. Yeah. Very cool. So, okay, you had mentioned something about how you had to kind of like pay your dues first, and you kind of have to have a business before you teach how to have a business or to be a photographer. No, am I wrong on that?
Well, you know what? It's like I honestly feel that the best educators are the ones who've had a full-time business for a while, not just like, oh, I made it for 1 year. Now I'm going to start teaching, like I think you have to have a few years under your belt where you're a full-time professional photographer, earning a living, with your photography, and then going from there. Because when you can establish yourself, and I always say, like, if you've made at least $500,000 doing what you do, then that kind of qualifies you into teaching photography, because also there's a lot of content that you can teach on just establishing your business. And if you don't have that portion, then it's kind of like you're going to be a one trick pony. You're going to teach
Yep.
what you're famous for, and then you're going to go by the wayside. So to have longevity, and I've been doing this for a couple decades or so, you have to be well rounded as a photographer and also
Hmm.
have a thriving business, or else you might not be in business for
Yeah,
a
totally.
while, and then you're out
Yeah,
of the picture.
I feel like we're really in tune because when we were kind of chatting about, what we were going to talk about, I mean, you could literally talk about anything, but I was thinking like this, it might be good to talk about, for people who are interested in becoming an instructor, maybe not right now, but down the road, or for people right now. I mean, because I feel like, when you've been a successful photographer for so long, sometimes you want to change things up. And one way that you can change things up is to become an educator. So I was like, we haven't really talked about that much. Like, would you be interested? And you were like, well, as a matter of fact, I've been toying around with like maybe doing a workshop about that. So that's perfect. And then
Yeah.
what you just said. So we just sent out an email on the Portrait Masters email list. I'm like sending out like tips and tricks and things like that through the email list. And I literally just sent one out. What's today? Let's see. Today's a couple days ago. So
25th.
like September 25th. No, the 23rd. No, 24th. September. Yesterday.
Ooh, yesterday. Yeah.
Yesterday. And it was talking about my 300 square foot studio that I had and then some social media stuff. And in it, I say that I made $500,000 in 3.5 years in my 300 square foot studio. So as soon as you said, if you make $500,000, I'm like, well, good, I qualify because here I am educating. So, but that's funny that you just said that. And literally yesterday, an email went out to the Portrait Masters list and I talked about that. So that's funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're totally in sync here.
Totally. Okay. So, but before we get into just being an instructor and like what it takes and what you do and how to get there, what was your business like before you even started
Yeah, well,
teaching?
I'm from California, and really there's very limited ways to make money in California with your photography. And at the time, it was mostly wedding photography. Everybody in California is a transplant. And so family photography and stuff like that just doesn't exist because your family's not even here.
Yeah,
It's like your family's in another country or it's just different states.
a
And
little bit
so
harder. Yeah.
there's a bunch of transients in
Well, but
California that,
I'm assuming though it's probably different from city to city. Like I feel like
yeah,
some of the northern towns, like California, it's smaller towns or whatever. I don't know.
Sacramento or more rural
Yeah.
places, you probably can establish some things. But in general, like if you're talking Los Angeles area and San
Right.
Francisco area where there's a lot of people, generally it was mostly wedding photography at the time. We're talking
Yeah.
20 years ago too.
Right.
Of course, Sue Bryce changed all that. And see, before Sue Bryce, the being a wedding photographer was like, oh, the thing to be.
Yep. Yep.
And so that was the hot thing to be as a wedding photographer. So that's how I started. And then so I learned everything from there because with wedding photography, you have to kind of do it all very
Yeah.
quickly too. And
Yeah.
I just kind of learned my methods from that. And it was a great training ground to go into other things.
It's so true because you're photographing families. You are
Hmm.
like, I've said this before. I hope I don't sound like a broken record on this podcast, but I mean, you have to be on the fly. Like, you have to be lighting in all situations. I mean, you can walk into some like super badly, horribly lit reception or hotel room. Like, I remember days when I'm walking in, I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, but you have to know what to do. I mean, you're posing
Yeah.
groups, you're posing couples, you're posing individuals, you're doing candids. Like, it is a great education to be a wedding photographer.
It definitely is. And I just, some people like are afraid to tell people that they were a wedding photographer, but actually I feel like wedding photographers are some of the best photographers in the world because of just the
Yeah.
training, and we have to just learn how to do everything and deal psychologically with,
Oh my gosh.
the
Yes.
bride and the mother-in-laws and the
Uh-huh.
coordinators and
That
juggle
part,
all that social aspect.
the
Yeah.
timeline and the weather. And when you're like, oh, I get 3.5 minutes to do couples portraits and it's raining outside, like awesome.
Exactly.
It's not for the faint at heart.
No.
Oh man, I make it sound so bad. Like I enjoyed it for a while. It wasn't like, and there are people out there who truly love it. But so, is it something that you felt like you absolutely like loved and did for a long time, or what? How did you kind of progress
Yeah.
into
Oh,
your
well,
business?
so I shot my first wedding around 2000. And from when I shot that first wedding, I go, finally. And I was around 38 years old or so.
Okay, yeah,
And I had been searching and searching to, hang my hat on something. And then when I
yeah,
shot that first wedding, it's like, boom, my life exploded on me because I finally, for the first time ever, I felt this is where my skill set is. This is what I could do. And
mm,
this is where I can make a career out of this. And it was just life changing on that first wedding.
wow, that's pretty awesome. From there, are you someone who was doing like 30 weddings a year and just like constant? I mean, I guess in California, it's not quite as seasonal for weddings as it is where I'm in Michigan or in Seattle where I started shooting. Like, how did all that work?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think for, I would say good 8 months out of the year, you're shooting weddings. It might slow
Yeah,
down a little bit, in the winter months, but you still might get one once a month. But yeah, I was full-time weddings, shooting anywhere from 20 to 40 weddings a year, and just
yeah,
going at it for a long time, for a good 5-7 years consistently. And then I started transitioning myself into teaching.
yeah.
And here's what people don't really tell you about teaching. I remember this story. I was trying to do both, right? I was trying to do my wedding photography, which took up a ton of time, and
Mm-hmm.
then trying to put your curriculum together for your teaching, and kind of put your teaching concepts down and work through them. That also takes a ton of time too, if you want to do
Mm-hmm.
it well. And it's like you can't do both. And so there came a certain point in my career where I literally had to choose whether I was going to kind of continue with my wedding photography, which provided all my income, or switch
Right.
over. And because here's the one thing, when you go into teaching, you got to be available for all the dates somebody asks you to teach. And if you have a wedding booked every single one of those weekends, somebody asks you to teach, sometimes they'll never ask you again, especially when you're,
Yeah.
first starting out. So you have to kind of clear all those dates. And then
That's a
another
really good
thing,
point.
yeah, and here's another thing I remember specifically talking to my wife, and I said, listen, I've done wedding photography for a while. I've been really doing well with it, but I really want to go into teaching. However, I may lose about $80,000 next year.
P.S. Honey. Yes.
By the way, I'm not going to be making as much money. And like, you know what? I have a great wife. And she goes, you know what? I'm glad you decided, because you've just been a pain in the butt all these times. You're very short with the kids. You're like always grumpy. You're like,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to do too much. And she just wanted me sane.
Yeah.
And it's
Totally.
like that was
Totally.
worth more than the money. And you know what? We found a way to make it work. And fortunately, I didn't really see a drop in my income, and just kind of went off from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always think about this because I do mostly personal branding with some high school seniors, and I do personal branding mostly in studio, some on location. But one of the reasons I left weddings is because of the weekend and evening thing. You know, I had two babies at shooting, well, okay. After I had my first baby was when I decided I am done with weddings. But there's something about like portrait photography that really can open your world to doing other things as well, because it's not, it's meaning education and teaching, because it's not weekends. I don't ever have to work a weekend doing a shoot if I don't want to, so there's that element of it too. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
However, if you were to speak at camera stores and events
Okay. Yeah. So
and
yes.
conferences, a
Yep.
lot of times it is over the weekend.
Yeah.
But I always tell people it's like, you know what, my schedule's like a fireman,
Yeah.
right? Where you're kind of like 4 on, 3 off type of feeling. And so it would be generally every other week I'm traveling somewhere for a few days.
Okay.
But the rest of
Yep.
the time I'm home, I've been to every single volleyball game of my daughter,
See? Oh, so great.
cross
Yeah.
country match with my other daughter. And I would tell my wife, I'm like, look there's not very many times where you see both parents there at the games watching their
Mhm.
kid. And we were able to do that and
Yep.
spend time during those times. Although, I did miss some birthdays and stuff like that on the weekend, but
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got your choices and
It's such a
sacrifices.
balance. It's such a balance. And I wanna okay, one more quick thing. Sorry, I keep bringing it back to me. One more
Sure.
quick thing, and then I wanna hear about so much of what you just said. But at the Portrait Masters conference, I actually left a day early because the Portrait Masters conference has always been Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I would take the red eye home Wednesday night. And then my family, annual family camping trip, all my aunts, uncles, cousins, we have an absolute blast. It's one of my favorite times of the year. We all camp together, and it always butts up to the Portrait Masters conference dates. Well, this year it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we already had we had everything booked starting Thursday. And I was like, sorry, peeps, I love y'all, but I gotta go. Like I have my
Mm.
I have my family camping trip I gotta get to. So I was able to be there. I got there Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, flew home Wednesday. So I got to do the gist of it. But it's a balance, and you're always picking and choosing like you know, what you got to do in
Guess
that
what?
moment. So,
I had to leave a day early too. I didn't want to, but I had to leave a day early from the Portrait Masters too because I had another family event where I was taking my
see,
daughter to college and they had the family weekend
oh,
thing. And so,
yeah,
yeah, it
so
just
special.
happens sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially if
So,
you have a family. See, that's
yeah, yeah,
that's the thing. You could slay it if you're single, right? Here's
right.
what I always say. It's like, okay, you're single, you got 100% of your time in extra. You could go 110%. I mean, you could work
Yeah,
80 hours, 100 hours a week, and you're fine. Then you're in a relationship. There goes 50% of your time. Then you have kids, cut
yeah.
that in half, have another kid,
I
cut that
know.
in half again. And so, wow, you really
Yeah,
got
it's
to be
intense.
efficient with your business and balance everything out
Mm,
going
speaking my
forward,
language.
especially if you want to start a family.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have to remember that, and that's a big learning
Yeah.
curve.
Yeah, definitely. Well, okay, so you said one thing that really jumped out at me that you said was, if you want to speak at camera stores and um what did you say? You said camera stores and something else, but it never occurred to me like,
Events,
okay, yeah, events. That's what I meant. Yeah.
conventions.
Yep. And I've always thought about speaking at I've spoken at WPPI. I got to speak in New Zealand at NZIPP and Portrait Masters, but that's pretty much it. Like I've never jumped into some of these other avenues for teaching. So I'm curious, like, can you kind of
Yeah,
lay out all of the different teaching opportunities? And then from there,
right.
we can talk about how people get into it. But let's
That's a
talk
good
about that.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you first start in it, of course, you want to speak at the big conferences like
Yeah.
WPPI and Imaging USA, and then let's say you happen to get a chance to speak at those, then you go realize, well, if I'm going to do this for a living, it's not like they pay you $100,000 to speak at one of
No, no,
those.
no. Let's say we don't get paid a
We're
whole, like
talking
it's
one
not,
hundredth of that, and when you start out, or even less,
yeah,
maybe, or free
yeah,
even. So you go,
yeah,
okay, if I'm doing this for a living, wait a second, I gotta fill up my schedule. I just can't have these two events. And so
yes,
that's what I did is I filled it up with actually one, do your own events. I think that's the first thing. Well, you got to develop a following first and then start doing your own events and filling up your schedule. And then from there, you can reach out to, there's a whole ton of things.
yeah.
There's camera stores out there. There's professional photography organizations, right? And I
Oh,
started
yes, like
off that
PPA,
way.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yep. I've done a
right.
couple of
And
those
even
here in Michigan. Forgot about that.
Yeah. And even online, they have larger events and they have meetup groups. I mean, right now, there are so many. I mean, before when I started, there was nothing, but now there are so many
Yeah,
groups out there. and they're kind of looking for instruction too. And just actually, even I probably the most popular of kind of workshops you could do is just basic photography,
Yeah. That's a
because
really good point.
that's where the base of the people are. When you're gonna try to teach professionals, kind of like the portrait masters, like you're gleaning from the top, 1-2% in the country, and
Yeah.
that's kind of hard to fill up a workshop or a convention from those who are professional photographers, because actually that's the very top, and there's less people there. So you got to start down lower where the base of people are, which are mostly hobbyists. And
Mhm.
then kind of what I do is I kind of teach on a broader sense and then kind of funnel up.
I love how you said that, like building up a funnel. But something you said before that was you have to kind of build a following. But something that I noticed, Scott, that, and I'm guilty of this. I did this at the beginning when I first started too, and I don't know why. I think I was just watching my favorite photographers speak to other photographers. So I remember like writing a blog on my like camera strap or like my whatever. And it's like, why was I trying to talk to other photographers at that time? Like I think sometimes newer photographers will talk to other photographers when they should be speaking to clients. And I think I heard Sue say that, like, stop talking to other photographers. And I was like, oh shoot, I am doing that. And as soon as I don't like, this was like in my like first year, I'm not even kidding. I don't know why I was doing that. And then as soon as I switched over to only speaking to my clients and marketing to my clients and whatever, my business, like I really, like my business really started blowing up more so. But like when do you start to make that transition, I guess, from speaking to your clients to speaking to other photographers, or can you do both?
Well, that's where the $500,000 comes into play. It's kind of
Yeah.
like when I feel like, yeah, you've established your business, then you can kind of give
Okay. Yeah.
insight to other
Yeah.
photographers because you've been there and done that. But if you haven't done that yet, I kind of feel like, well, then maybe you should come down a level and just kind of teach beginning photography and things like that to
Yeah. Yeah.
hobbyists and things like that.
For sure. Okay. You know, I'm like doing a dance with both things because I still have a photography business that it's not,
Good
I'm
for
doing
you.
like half the time that what I used to. I do like 3 shoots a month or whatever, and I used to do 8 to 10. So I'm still speaking to clients, but I am an educator and a teacher, and I do the podcast and all of that. So I'm always trying to like keep the attention of everyone. Like I don't want my
Yeah.
clients to get super annoyed if I'm only talking to photographers, but I don't want photographers to get annoyed if I'm only talking to clients. Although photographers can learn a lot by watching successful photographer speak to their clients. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Kind of a dance.
so you're kind of in that space where I was, where I kind of made a decision on going one way and really getting into it.
Yeah.
But there might be people out there that love still doing both, or just, you have a certain guaranteed income just staying with your business. But but for me, I really had a passion towards teaching. And for me
Yeah. Yeah.
personally, like that was my giftedness. I mean, I have more of a passion for educating than I do for photography. I
Got
mean,
it. Yeah.
to me, the only reason why I want to take an amazing picture is to teach that concept.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not about
Okay.
me winning the award now or doing this now. It's like I want to take a great picture, and so I can teach that concept to other photographers.
Oh, I
Because
like
my
that.
my
Yeah.
passion is the teaching and not necessarily
Mm.
the photography.
Got it. Got it.
But that's me. And
Yeah.
everybody has to
Yeah.
figure out where, there's so many hats that we wear and
Yes.
where that is. But for me,
Totally.
I knew that was it. That was like, this
Totally.
is what I want to do.
Okay, so how does someone even get started? Like if you obviously you can submit. So for example, WPPI, which is going to be WPPI and the Portrait Masters next year for the conference, we're going to be having events for both. It's going to be incredible. Of course you can apply, but what if like they say no, or like is it better
Yeah.
to start somewhere smaller and then
Yeah.
build your way up?
Don't count on that actually. Because it
Yeah.
took me
Yeah.
several years to crack the code and actually get in. And
Yeah.
you can submit every year, right? But don't don't that's not the end all be all, really, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
about you creating your own programs, you getting out there, connecting with other smaller groups and making a name for yourself. So, I was speaking all over the place for about 3 years or 4 years, even before I was on the radar of all these larger conferences.
Yeah.
In fact, I was accepted in Canada first, and their
Oh my
professional photography
Yeah.
organizations before I got accepted in America. So I love the
How
Canadians.
funny. Yeah. You're like, go Canada. No,
Yeah,
oh
they
Canada,
really
I should
accepted
say.
me and put me in front of a lot of their kind of more national organizations and conferences, and then from there, I kind of worked my I way in.
Yeah.
But you got to
That
do
probably
a
gave you the
lot.
street cred that you needed
Yeah,
to yeah.
yeah, you gotta just it's not gonna happen overnight. And I always have this saying, it's like, it takes you 10 years of hard work to be an overnight success.
Right. Right.
And it's like, yeah, it can happen overnight, but you have to be ready to step through that door when you get that opportunity. Just like when I was asked to speak on Creative Live way back in 2013.
Mhm.
But for 3 years, I was speaking every other week on the material that I presented at Creative Live. So when I went on Creative Live, I mean, I knew every sentence I was going to say. I knew
See?
every sentence that was going to get a laugh. I knew
Mhm.
what resonated with the people because I had been practicing that program for 3 years before I got that opportunity. And so you
Amazing.
don't want to go
Mhm.
on the big stage and say WPPI and totally screw up and
Yeah.
this is the first time I'm presenting this material, this lecture, on the biggest
Yeah.
stage. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's why you got to put your work in and just teach wherever you can. And even if it's for free, you got to do it.
Mhm.
You just
Totally.
got to
Yep.
practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, it's almost like, I know I did multiple free shoots. I still do sometimes just for fun and just to be creative to build my portfolio. It's like you kind of have to build your speaking portfolio. Sometimes that
Yes.
means doing it for free.
You
So,
have to
but
galvanize your concepts too, and you just can't regurgitate things other people have said. You have to come up with your own
yes.
philosophies, your own style, your own
Mhm.
signature style, the way you do things, the way you do your business. And
Mm.
because everybody's unique out there, and
Yep.
you kind of have to find your lane,
Yes.
and just not spit out
100%.
stuff that everybody else is spitting out.
Yep. I love that. So, when did you become a Sony artisan? Like, was that, I mean, basically an ambassador for Sony? Like, was that prior to starting all these speaking things or after?
It was kind of concurrently. It was probably around 2010, 2009. Uh, and at that time, I mean, you were a joke if you used Sony as a professional. People laughed at you. But
Really?
yeah, and so I was
I'm
doing
not a
my
techie, so I'm like, sweet. So, like, I have no idea. I'm just so like, la la la, I use what works and what I like. It's ridiculous to me that someone's gonna like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh,
People are
that's
dumb.
another thing is like brands, like if you're associated with certain brands, they can kind of help you get jobs too and opportunities. And so
Yes.
in my mind, I wanted to be a master educator and regarded as one of the top in the world, right? So I go, I gotta have a camera brand behind me. I'm just this little old person, doing my thing. And I go, well, let's see. At the time, I mean, we're talking, 15 years ago,
Right.
uh, Nikon was there and Canon was there, and that was it. And so if I was going to try to be a Nikon ambassador or a Canon ambassador, I was way, way, way down low on the list. They don't even know who I am. So how am I going to
Yeah.
break through that? Right. And
Right.
so here was Sony that I had met speaking at the Texas School, which is a huge convention every year, and I had met Sony and they were dying to like have ambassadors. And I go, here's my moment. I'm going with Sony. I had read some articles about mirrorless, and I love their direction and love what they bring in, and they have a big name. I'm going to go for it, even though people are laughing at me right now using it. But this is a camera brand that's accepting me,
Mm.
and I can go from there. And maybe if it doesn't work out with Sony, at least I could use that as a launching pad to go to another brand.
And now look
And
at
so
Sony.
I know. And so, like, hey, man, I hit it. I hit the lottery with that one. And I mean, if you would have told me, honestly, like 20 years ago, Scott, you're going to be helping design the cameras of today, I would have
Oh my
said, you're
gosh.
kidding, right?
How cool is that?
Yeah, just, like, oh my gosh, like engineers
Yeah.
actually want my input, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe how far you can go just putting one foot in front of the other and staying with it. You'll be amazed on how far, you can go with your
Yeah.
photography and the industry.
It's
But
incredible.
yeah, that's been a blessing. So, of course, being aligned with Sony, and then Sony, sells their gear at camera stores. And so if you reach a certain levels, of course, Sony is going to ask me to speak at different camera stores because I use there. And so that's another avenue to book events and gigs and things like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, again, like there's only around 30 artisans in the entire country. So if you think of all the
Yeah.
photographers in the world and then
I
you're
mean,
like top 30, that's really hard to do. But what I always say is you get mentored, right? So I've
yeah.
actually pushed through a couple artisans that I've mentored because I just dropped their name to the powers that be, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the
That
value of
networking piece, yeah.
yeah. So that's the value of being mentored by somebody who's at a higher level than you.
Mhm.
They can open doors. I can open doors for people that have taken me literally a decade to open, and I can just flip them on to my mentorees immediately, right?
See?
That's the
You
power of
earned that,
mentorship.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
And
cool.
so I
But
don't
and
care how much money you pay, like towards a coaching program or a mentoring program, if that person is very influential and you like their style and everything, because they could turn it around and open all these doors for you that would take you a decade.
oh, yeah, for sure. And I don't want people to think that they can they only should be looking for, partnerships or whatever with the big name camera brands. Like, there are so many
Yeah.
other like, go to these conferences, go to the trade shows, like, start
Yes.
talking to the people behind the desk there, behind the table, and if it's a product
That's
that
what
you
I did.
sincerely, truly love,
You know what I
you know?
started with? Here's how I started. Of course, you can't just like walk into the Sony booth and say, "Hey, I want to be
Yeah,
ambassador." Oh, sure.
right.
Yes.
So what do
No,
I have
that's
to
not
do
going
to
to
become
happen.
a yeah, yeah,
That's a one in a million chance. So what
right.
I did was I started with the album companies, and I started with something that they need. They always need imagery, right? And I had
Mm,
won several multiple awards with my imagery through WPPI and whatever. And so I knew that my imagery was at a certain level. I just offered hey, do you guys need any imagery for your albums or whatever? Here, go ahead and use whatever you want.
very
And
smart.
that's how I got in. And some of my first sponsorships were through like printing and album companies. And that's a very, to me, low hanging fruit because they're always looking
Mhm.
for photographers and the worst case scenario is like, hey, you might get a free album out of it.
Yeah, yeah. Your work will get be out there. Someone might notice it or,
So I
yeah.
started there with vendors and then kind of worked my way up and, smaller companies. And then, I was just, so I work with different lighting companies too. And I was just walking around and, of course, at the Portrait Masters, Godox was there. And so they pulled me aside there and knew who I was, right?
Oh,
I'm like,
see?
Godox is
Cool.
probably the number one flash company in the world. And they wanted to
Yeah.
stop and talk to me. You just never know, but it's got to
Nice.
start somewhere. You can't start.
Mhm.
I think that's what I want to tell people because they're always like, "Oh, how do you become a Sony Artisan?" And it's like, I don't want to say good luck, my friend. It's going to be nearly impossible. But you got to start low and go to these. There's hundreds of other vendors, and the best place to
Mm-hmm.
meet them are, like you said, are like at these conventions, because a
Yep.
lot of times they send their
Networking.
top people, or they
Yep.
send the CEO or the, business owner of that lighting manufacturing company, and you're directly talking to the owner. Whereas if you were to
Mm-hmm.
try to email them, there's no way they're going to even answer your email. But if you get a face to face with them, that's why I go to everything. It's like people ask me, "Oh, are you going to go to this? Are you going to go to that?" I go, "Yeah, I go every year." And I go to
Mm.
network, and I go to meet other vendors and try to, make myself available, introduce myself, because they can help me get other events.
Yep. Yep. Okay, let's shift gears. You had said that the first time you did like a big online course or whatever, you had perfected it. You'd practiced it, you'd done it. Like, and I know you've been on countless stages and done countless presentations since then. But like, what would what's the recipe for you for a really good one? Like, I've sat through a lot, and some are really great, and some I'm like, ugh,
Yeah.
like what are like the elements there that you would suggest to people that they really have to include, and maybe some things to stay away from?
I think the first thing is that concept that you're teaching has to ring true to you, and it has to be successful.
Mhm.
And a lot of people just
I like that.
regurgitate things that they've heard, and it's not, they don't live that technique. And so for
Yeah.
me, I live it, I use it. And if it doesn't work for me, then I'm not going to present it on stage. And so that comes into practicing, getting out there, using it. So, one, you have to have techniques that you own and that you do, and that you have a particular way to do it that's different than other people, and it helps you arrive to the solution a lot easier, or a different way of thinking. And so
Mhm.
I know for a fact, like, my giftedness is to take something complicated like flash photography on location and bring
Mhm.
it down to a B, C, or a 1, 2, 3 steps, and boom, there it is. So I know
That's the
that that's what
best.
my giftedness is, because I
Mhm.
feel like I'm not like a genius. I have to figure things out and make things simple for me to use it in the real world. So that's, I know my lane, right? And then
Mhm.
on top of that, you have to have passion and enthusiasm about what you're teaching on
Which you
stage.
do. It's
And
very
yeah,
obvious on stage. I love it.
right. And so, like, I would like do these presentations, and sometimes I literally would, like, when I do a WPPI presentation, for example, there would be people standing in line waiting maybe 45 minutes to talk to me, right? And which is insane. I get like, wow. And then I would always ask them, well, then what did you like about my presentation? And a lot of times they just say, man, I love your passion. And
Mm.
I would hear that more often than not. And so if you can get excited about a teaching concept or whatever, other people can be
Mhm.
excited about it too, and they can see that. And so I think that's part of it. The third element is, I think I have ADD, and it's hard for me to concentrate on things. And because of
Yeah.
that, my presentations are kind of sped up, and I got a lot of things going, and that helps to keep it moving and not
Yeah.
stagnant in one area. And adding a little bit of humor in there with your
Mhm.
presentation goes a long ways, because you are an entertainer too. So that's what I feel like. When you're on
Totally.
stage, you're an entertainer.
Yep.
And whether you're going to entertain by content or jokes or different concepts or a new idea, but you're still an entertainer. And so you got
Mhm.
to remember that. And if you can add some levity and just get people to laugh and enjoy life, that's huge.
That's exactly right. It's interesting because when I think about how I do these podcasts, I mean, I know I'm not like up on stage speaking, but it's a form of education. And I would, the three things I always try to achieve, it's kind of exactly what you said. It's entertaining,
Hmm.
inspiring, and educating. Like, that's what I'm trying to pull out of my guests that I have.
Yeah.
You're teaching something, you're entertaining a little bit, and you are inspiring people. And it seems like it's I mean, it's a pretty awesome recipe,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
works. And I think a lot of people, I don't know, they just so excited about teaching that they don't develop their own kind of style first, or
Yeah.
or just have enough experience speaking in front of people. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you've got to do it over and over and over. So when you do get the big break at WPPI or whatever, or the Portrait Masters, that you're going to go on there and kill it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you're making a mistake, learn how to get out of it while you're teaching it on stage.
Yeah. Or maybe like own it too. I know if I mess up,
Own
I'm
it.
like, so I
Yeah.
just messed up. Like totally just messed that one up. Let me
That
try that again
sucks.
or whatever, you know? Because then it's like,
Yeah.
if you own it, they can't come back and say like, "Oh, Nikki, like totally fucked that one up." You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, just be yourself. And I think that's like the thing about practicing it is practice, 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 because you're going to kind of eliminate the mess ups when they do come. But if they do come,
Yeah.
you're so skilled that you know how to work around it and move
Mm-hmm.
forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
So experiences. So just get out there and start doing it. And
Yeah.
even if it's in front of two people, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're just practicing and developing your craft.
Yeah. And so now, so you have your full time business is teaching, educating, like the whole speaking
Yeah.
circuit. Yeah.
I even
That's
I
cool.
even turned my weddings into workshops.
No
So
way.
I'll
Your
get
own
asked
wedding?
to my own weddings. So I'll get asked to shoot a wedding, right? And
Uh-huh.
what I'll do is I'll give them a great price. And then I'll say, "Will you allow me to bring a couple assistants on and so far?" "Sure, bring as many people as you want." And so then I will probably limit it to 2 or 3 people, and I say, "How would you like to shoot a real wedding with me?"
Look
And
at
you will
that.
see, like, how I do it, how I talk to the
Yeah.
people, all that kind of stuff. You could even use the imagery for your own portfolio at my wedding.
Mm,
And actually, if they
smart.
even press me, and let's say we only have like 3 minutes to shoot the bride and groom, and they say, "Scott, I didn't get that angle or whatever," I will give them my imagery and say, "Here, go ahead. Just use it in your own portfolio if you need it."
Yeah.
I
And
don't
so then
care.
they are paying you to be part
Yes.
of shooting this wedding.
Yes. So
Smart.
everybody wins. So
Yeah.
the client wins because they're getting a reduced price. My
Yeah.
and then that's what I always wanted and nobody would do. I mean, like when I was first starting out, it's like I wish I could shoot with some of the top wedding photographers in the world. That's not going to
Yeah.
happen. And so now I make it available for people to do that. And I'll usually reach out individually to people, or I'll be at another workshop where I meet them and I feel that it's a good fit. Then I'll kind of like
Yeah.
it's kind of like a personal invitation because I just can't bring anybody to these Wendy's weddings that I don't know.
Right.
So, but I even turned that into a learning experience for people.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
I hate being say, "Oh, I teach wedding photography, but don't shoot weddings." Like, I don't wanna be one of those. So I shoot maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6 weddings a year still, but it's not my
Yeah.
main business.
Right. That's a really, really smart thing to do. And, I think once you reach a certain level, like I get people who ask me, like, can I come help you in your studio? Can I assist you during a shoot? And I always, mostly I say no because I'm like, gosh, this is my, it's kind of a more of an intimate one-on-one shoot. And I can't be teaching while I'm with my client. Like I have two different hats going,
Yeah.
I don't know. But
But just
I mean, that's,
observing you is a learning experience in itself,
yeah, yeah, it
and
is.
they can
And
assist you and just observe you, which people would like even how to set up the
yeah.
lighting or whatever.
But I
And
never
you can
thought
always have a
about doing it.
recap afterwards.
Right,
Right?
right.
And so that's what I
Yeah.
do. It's like, "Hey, listen, don't really ask me while I'm talking to the bride a question, like, we can talk about it
Right.
during downtime or the next day or at dinner afterwards or something like
Yeah.
that, but not I'm in my zone, like, don't bother
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Well,
Help me, don't
and it
bother
does.
me."
Yeah, totally. And it does. It takes a certain amount of energy in addition to shooting cuz like I am giving my
Mhm.
all to my clients just like I know you do,
Yes.
And so it does when you're teaching someone else in the meantime and someone's there watching like and then you're recapping and all of that. I never thought to charge for that. Like, that's kind of smart. Like, I'm just thinking for people out there who have others saying, hey, can I come watch you or assist you or whatever? Like,
Right.
maybe there's something to that, and letting the client know, just like you did, like, hey, I'm going to reduce your price a little bit if you allow my student to come in,
Well, you
and
don't
then you
even have to
charge the
do that.
student.
You
What's
just
that?
you don't even have to reduce your price if you don't want to, because
Oh, I
they
thought
don't
you said
know
that's
you.
what you did, that you give
I
them a
do
good price
that.
or something.
I do
Okay.
that
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
like, but you don't have to
Right.
if you
Yeah.
don't want
True.
to, but I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is
Because
kind
I
of a
just
win-win where you're getting compensated. Not that I don't like
yeah.
giving people, I'm an open book for sure, but there's only so much you can do without being compensated before it starts to like wear on you.
Here's a
So,
good point that I tell people just getting started. Like, let's say you're getting really good at something.
mm,
And then
mm-hmm.
people are going to be constantly asking you how to do this,
Yeah.
what you do that, what is it? And then I say, hey, just develop a workshop. And so you're not saying no to them, but you point them to that. So when they ask you, oh, how to do this, just go, hey,
Mm-hmm.
sign up at my workshop that's next
Yep.
month.
Yep.
Right? And so that way you don't feel like people are taking advantage of you, and you're just giving this free information that you've been developing over the last 5, 6, 10 years. And it's like, for you just to hand it over, that's like handing over all your secrets to your business, right? Now, if
Yeah.
you're going to pay
Yeah.
me for it, then hey, I can kind of live with that, because you are telling, your trade secrets that you've developed over
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years. That's worth something. You just like don't
Yeah.
throw that out there to anybody.
Yep.
So I always say, have a workshop available, or workshops that you can just send people to if they do ask those types of questions.
Yep. Smart. Smart.
And so that way
Yeah.
you're monetizing on the audience that's being attracted to you. You're just kind of funneling them up to another type of revenue stream that you've created.
I love it.
It's
I
all
love it.
part of the funnel.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been super helpful, Scott. Thank you. It's not really something we've talked too much about, and I know there are a lot of people who are ready to kind of take that step. So I'm glad we covered it all. Appreciate it. But I do have questions that I always ask at the end of each episode too, so you're not off the hook yet.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the first one, I was gonna say let's do something with speaking, but you know what? Because I know you do your shoots like in it, a lot of times you're doing shoots because you want to also teach that. Let's stick with the original question. Okay. So, all right. Question number one is, what is something you can't live without when you're doing a photo shoot? Besides your camera, besides your Sony.
Oh, definitely lighting.
Yeah.
Any type of lighting, and then also an apparatus to diffuse that lighting if I want to create soft lighting, which is usually just a simple shoot through umbrella. So some sort of lighting and some sort of diffuser all the time, everything, because I'm very a stickler. If I don't see catch lights in those eyes, I ain't taking a picture. Or if the quality of light is not good enough for me, I don't even take the picture. So I
Yep.
need to, if I can't find the light on location, then I need to create it. And that's just a necessity for me.
Is there certain brand of lights that you use, or do you use a variety?
Yeah, well, now I'm mostly going to constant light. And so I use the
Mm,
Stella reflex lights, which I absolutely love because they're super strong constant lights. So I
okay.
use that, but I'll use a flash once in a while because, of course, they're not super, super strong like a flash. And so I generally
Mm-hmm.
use a Godox flash because they're very inexpensive. And if you lose them, no big deal. So those are
Fantastic.
kind of like what I use.
Cool. All right. Number two is, how do you spend your time when you're not working?
Oh man, I mean, it's basically all to my family because, as you know, this business is pretty crazy. I am literally like every other week traveling somewhere around the world. And so when I do come home, concentrate on my family. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's important to me. And if you don't put time towards what's important to me, you're going to lose it. And especially with the crazy schedules that you have as a photographer, traveling and all that kind of stuff. So basically, it's like my work, my family, and then every once in a while, going out with friends here and there. But
Yep.
basically, that's kind of like my life right now.
Yeah. You just nailed it in a nutshell for me as well. I love it. All right. Number 3 is, what is I know you just said your lighting, but what is a product, maybe in addition to like not necessarily a camera, lens, or lighting, whatever, any sort of like product that you would recommend that
Ooh,
people
yeah,
might not think
I
of right
got one.
away?
I got
Awesome.
one. It's called the cheetah stand.
The cheetah
Okay, and what
stand.
a cheetah stand does, and people ask me about these stands all the time. And in fact, I had them on stage with me at the Portrait Masters too. It's a stand where when you lift it up, the legs automatically fold
Yes.
in.
Oh, I know this stand and it is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if you're a wedding
It's like,
photographer and you're trying to go through tables and trying to fit through narrow areas and you're constantly on the go, when that stand, the legs come in automatically, it's a smaller
uh-huh.
footprint. You can sneak through things. You could use it as a monopod too because the legs come in.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot leave home without that cheetah stand.
It's a genius design. I know exactly what you're talking
And
about.
I think I could get
Glad you said that.
people a discount too.
Oh, sweet.
All you have to do is go to my LinkedIn page, which is scottrobertstudio.com. And then you have all my links. And then I think there's a special link
Oh,
there. You can get a
perfect.
discount on the stands.
Fantastic. I need one, so I'm glad you
And
said
even
that.
the
I'm gonna
Stella Lights, I
get
think you can
myself
get a
one.
discount through there too. But yeah,
Oh,
cheetah
sweet.
stands are great.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, number 4 is, what would you tell people who are just starting out? And I know you covered this a little bit, but if you could sum it up.
I think there's a few things. One, I feel like get a mentor
Mm-hmm.
because with the style that let's say you're a portrait photographer, don't have a landscape photographer as your mentor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like it
of course.
has to, first of all, like, okay, find a mentor, but a mentor whose photography that you kind of respect and admire. And also they've made at least $500,000 profit, not gross, but profit in their business. Um, and that will take you further because I've mentored several photographers, and there's things that I tell a photographer that have taken me decades to learn, or I've
Yeah,
wasted so much money, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars doing something a certain way, and said, don't do that, do this because it's going to save you thousands of dollars. So there's even
yep.
on equipment and buying that. So
Totally.
there's so many things that a mentor can do for you and give you the shortcuts to your craft. That's the one thing that I highly recommend.
Love it. Perfect. Okay, so scottrobertstudio.com. That's where everyone can find all the things that you have, that you offer, all your things, right?
Yes, Instagram links, all that kind of stuff,
Cool.
workshops they can sign up for, whatever, discounts on gear, it's all there. Portfolio,
Awesome.
blah, blah, blah.
Sweet. Well, I will see you in March at WPPI / the Portrait Masters. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I know we haven't had a chance to chat, and so this has been a real blessing for me, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Yay.
Yay!
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Also, if you want more photography education, resources, and inspiration, head to theportraitsystem.com. Okay, we'll see you in the next one.